Are you in love with your product management role? From time to time, we all find ourselves with this big question. Shall we stick and stay at the current job that we have? Or shall we switch to another one? Now, this is a big question. This is your product management career crossroads. And today it's all about you, this question, and all the answers you need. Welcome aboard to the Product League floor, the orange floor, where we support you in becoming the best product manager you can be. Product League is an international mentoring program for product managers by product managers in 30 countries around the world. I am Maria Cassis, the founder and general manager of Product League, and I am so happy and excited to have you here with us today. So, as I said, it's about you today. It's about your career. It's about making the right decision. It's about thinking about the things that you should consider. It's about considering different journeys, different approaches, and making sure that you prioritize the things that matter to you. So go ahead and in the chat, let us know who you are, where you're from, what is your biggest thing, the biggest, most important thing that you care about when you make the decision. Shall you stay and stick with the current job that you have, or shall you switch? And what is your challenge? What is the biggest question you have when it comes to making this big decision about your career crossroads? I promise you, you'll receive all the answers you need. I hope that you are ready. We're starting right now. Joining us live from Sunnyvale, California is Gilad Turbahn, Global Product Management Leader and Product League Mentor. Hello, Gilad. What's up? What's up?
All's good. All's good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I almost outdated myself right now with the Truman Show quote.
We'll love you anyway. We do, and I'm so happy to have you here with us. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to talk about this challenge of, being in the crossroads of your career, because I know for a fact that for so many leaguers in our audience today, right now, both mentors and mentees, this is a real question. This is a real challenge. Whether you're a senior product manager or a VP of product, you find yourself with this question. So, shall I switch or shall I stick with the current role that I have? And I'm personally, Gilad, very excited to learn from you today about this topic. What should the audience keep in mind? We are here for all the questions that they have.
Yep.
You are not afraid to be challenged.
Correct.
Grilled even. You're not afraid to be grilled by them. So all questions and challenges are welcome. And I think this is it. I think we're very eager to hear what the audience have in mind as for their challenge, questions, and you're here to give the answers that they need.
Exactly. And by the way, this is an interactive session, as in me talking at you for, 30 minutes is probably going to bore the hell out of at least some people. So the idea is ask questions. We know when to stop the presentation. I'll call on Moria to bring up the questions that you guys have. If we decide, hey, we're going to address this in a second, I'll just call it out. If we're going to address it at the end, I'll make sure we get back to those questions. But please ask. As in, I'm not afraid to tackle the questions that you may have. You might not like the answer, but that's a different story.
I love this attitude. Love it very much. Gilad, shall we start?
Yes, please.
Let's do that. Enjoy. The stage is yours. Can't wait to see what are the questions that the audience will bring.
Awesome. So welcome to the conversation about career crossroads. These are the two questions I'm going to try and answer today. The first one is, how do I know if my current job is quote unquote right for me? Now, there's a question about what is right. We'll talk about it a little bit. But the real question we're trying to answer is it something that's going to be good for me short term? Is it something that's going to be good for me long term? And then the other question we're going to try and answer is, should I stay at my current job? Or is this the right time to find a new gig? This is what we're going to talk through. How are we going to do it? We're going to touch on the following topics. So I'm going to show you the framework that's called the Greek Temple Framework. It is something that I had the chance to develop after doing a bunch of mentorship with a bunch of folks, both direct reports that worked for me and mentees through Product League and other organizations. Then we're going to talk about the two foundational steps of the framework, about the pillars supporting the roof. We're going to show you two examples of how this framework works in practice. We're going to talk about the concept of scaffolding, and we're going to talk about how do you use this same framework to evaluate not your current job, but rather new opportunities. And finally, we'll summarize and answer all the questions you might have. And with that, here's the framework, or at least a drawing of a building. So you guys should all be familiar with this type of building. Started in Greece, I want to say. And this is the Greek temple. We have 2 foundational steps, we have pillars, and we have a roof. Now, before I show you what those actually mean, let me tell you what we're going to try and do with this framework. So this framework is designed to help assess and analyze information. The goal is to make sure you have sufficient data to make a decision, is my current job the right one for me? And the way to do it with this type of framework is to say, is my roof still up? Is it still standing? So that's our goal. How do you know if the roof is still standing? Well, let me show you the high-level concepts of the framework. So framework has 2 foundational steps and 5 pillars to support the roof. This is the framework. I'll show you each piece one at a time. Let us glimpse this for 1 second, and let's dive into the first foundational steps. So here are the 2 foundational steps. Is the compensation enough? We'll talk about what is enough in 1 second. And the second one is work-life balance suitable for your current needs? Let's dive in. Compensation. So there are a ton of questions out there about compensation. It might be, is this package that I'm getting great? Is it on par with the market? This is not what we're trying to answer right now. What we're trying to answer is this satisfactory for my current needs, for my family's needs? This is not about amazing compensation. It could be great, by the way. If you go to a top company, a FANG company, you can get amazing compensation. But this is not the question we're trying to answer right now. Right now, it's a yes/no question about your own personal bar. Either the answer is yes, it passes the bar, or no. How do we know if it's green or passes the bar? Well, it means that the salary or comp package overall can help you pay the bills, and you don't need to worry about dipping into your savings or getting loans or getting a second job, all of those types of things. Now, that changes over the course of your lifetime. When you have kids, when you have additional house that you want to buy, all of these change throughout time. So it's not one answer, yes, no, for all time, but rather at that specific point in time when you're asking the compensation question, is it satisfactory to my current set of needs? The other step is the work-life balance piece. And the question we're asking here is the current work-life balance suitable for my current needs or my current lifestyle? Now, let me caveat. A lot of people, much smarter than I am, have talked about work-life balance and named it different things. Work-life integration, work-life balance, how do you integrate, or there's a ton of different terms. Quite honestly, I don't know what's the right term, but here's what I do know. At the end of the day, we have our work priorities on the one hand, and we have our personal priorities. Those might be very well aligned for some people at some points in time, and they might be totally different for some people at different points in time. We are not looking for the optimal work-life balance. I learned this the hard way. Some people actually want to work 15 hours a day. I give credit to those folks. I'm probably not one of them. I love working hard, but not 15 hours a day every single day. The optimal for most people is, let me work half days and still earn full wages. The thing is, we're not looking for optimal. We're looking for something that allows you to spend X amount of time at work such that you have time to invest in your other side of your life, your hobbies, your family, your sleep, your friends, all those types of things. This is what you want to have time to invest in. And the definition of green is based on your personal needs at this point in time and your family's needs at this point in time. you will have enough time to invest in those aspects of your life. Now, caveat, what does normal circumstances mean? Every company has pressure when it comes to releases, when it's crunch time, when you have a big presentation to the board, when you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the non-normal circumstances. As in, yes, you'll have to give up some of your personal time that you would have spent with family if it's crunch time. But there's a saying, if you constantly work in peaks, then you're not working in peaks, you're working in a plateau, and that's just the new normal. So ask yourself, is it a peak? Is it a one-off, in which case this doesn't fit the definition? Or is it the company's always everything on fire, therefore this is just the norm, and this is the work-life balance that you need to deal with? Now, if this step is broken, by the way, you are going to go downhill very, very quickly because you're going to burn out. It's going to hurt you outside of work, which means all the baggage you'll bring from outside of work to work, and you are because you're human, or at least I am, all that baggage is going to really show up at work, and it could potentially start hurting your physical and mental health. So this is a very critical step as well. With this, before I dive into the pillars, Moria, do we have any questions we want to address right now?
Not only that we have a question, we have a fantastic question, maybe even like a case, a scenario, specific one to talk about. So Andre is here with us on LinkedIn, and he's saying, I moved from Russia to Israel a year ago. Welcome aboard. Welcome to Israel, Andre. I keep working remotely at a Russian company. My challenge is to find a job opportunity in Israel in either property tech or construction tech products. So if I can elaborate a little bit about Andre from what is writing right here, when is the right time for me, not just to make the decision of the crossroads, shall I stick or shall I switch, but if previously you mentioned in some of the slides under normal circumstances, here is the abnormal circumstances. I just relocated. When is the right time for when I'm relocating to make a decision? And I love this one. Thank you so much, Andre, for opening up and asking the question.
So I love this one as well. We're actually going to talk about it later in the presentation, but I want to give a teaser for 1 second. This framework is not designed to be consumed as a one-time thing, as in you don't ask the questions on a specific day and whatever the answers are, you leave or you stay. That's not the way it's designed. What you need to think through is you need to get the answers to all those different questions as a form of getting all the information written down, or at least in your head. And then you need to see whether it's consistent over time, and what are the pieces you're willing to compromise on, and what are the pieces you're not willing to compromise on. Each person has different sized pillars, if you will, and different sized steps. We'll talk about it later. But the answer when you're thinking about switching, especially when you move to a new place, find your bearing first. Understand what does reality look like in terms of those pillars and those steps in this new place. Understand your tolerance for each one of those, and then you can make an informed decision.
I love it. In other words, Andre, stick with us because we are going to talk about the different pillars that you should consider. You are going to make yourself a list where you prioritize the pillars that important most for you. And then we're here to make a decision with you that may be different in a day, a week, or a month from now, as Gilad said. But yes, we are going to do that. And now continuing with your presentation. Thank you so much, Gilad.
All right. There you go. Ha. Let us talk about the pillars. So there are 5 of them, as I mentioned. The first one is the people you work with, the people you interact with day in, day out. The second one is your manager, your boss. The third one is the actual job that you do day in, day out. The fourth one is the company you work at. And the fifth is your own personal growth or growth potential. Let's dive in. Let's talk about people. So people is all about the daily interactions you have with all the different folks you work with. As PMs, and I'm a PM as well, we work with engineering and we work with design and we work with sales and we work with marketing and we work with a bunch of folks. This question, this pillar, is all about the interactions that we have with them. Do they drain my energy or do they give me energy? Can I count on them? Do I have fun? If I'm, by the way, if I'm a people manager and I am a people manager, do I like the team that reports to me? Do I feel like I can help them? Do I feel like I support them? Do I get fulfillment out of it? So this is the people pillar. Now, let me say this right now. The way to use all of these pillars is the following. Ask yourself those questions. There are more questions. I didn't put all the different ones because that would have made it an even more packed slide. So there are more questions that you can ask yourself around the people pillar. But the idea is, see how many of them can you answer with a resounding yes. And if you have enough, you don't need all of them to be yeses. But if you have enough, if you have the majority and you feel good about it, then your pillar is quote unquote green, as in it's a sturdy pillar. It will support your roof. That's the way to use this part of the framework. Let us talk about the manager, the boss. So this is specifically about your direct manager. So there's a bunch of research that was done on it. I can't remember what the latest one was, but I do remember the statistic that more than 50% of people who leave companies leave because of their direct manager. And that is crucial. So these folks, the managers, have a profound impact on your day-to-day. They have a profound impact on how you perceive yourself if you're the type of person who takes feedback critically. They have a profound impact on even your vacation time. So we really need to understand whether your boss is somebody who is supporting pillar for you, or we need to know if you're learning and growing specifically from the manager. There's another pillar talking about growth and long-term growth. This is, can I learn something from this person? Will she teach me how to do my job better? Can I think of myself in her shoes and see how she does the job? Those are the ways to think about learning and growing. Do I get actionable feedback? Will they be my advocate? And would I go back to working for them? I can tell you personally that I've worked for a guy who's amazing. And when he asked me whether I want to come work for him again at a different job, the answer was yes, when? And I gave up on 5 different job offers because I loved working for him so much. And it was amazing. And I made the right call there. So a boss is really a make or break for this framework. These are the questions you want to address. Let's talk about the role. So in terms of the role, this is the day-to-day job you're actually performing. This is the writing Jira tickets. This is doing the customer interviews. This is interacting with customers in forums or going to, doing board or leadership level presentations. That's just for PMs. By the way, this framework is not just specific for PMs. It can be very much extended outside the product management realm. But hey, this is our audience today, so I'd much rather talk about PMs. This is what you do in your day-to-day. And the questions you should ask yourself is, again, enjoyment is important. It's not a scale, right? It's a yes, no, it's a feeling type question. And it's repetitive across all those pillars because at the end of the day, you feel whether your pillar is green or red. Then there's a question of, hey, is the work that this company does aligned with the type of stuff that I want to be doing? If you want to work on Gen AI and this is a manufacturing company that never touched Gen AI in its lifetime, then the role might not be exactly aligned. If the type of thing that I thought I'm going to be coming in to do, the work that I'm actually going to be doing, or the work that I see I'm doing in practice, you might have thought that you're going to be very outbound oriented, and what you're doing is writing Jira tickets all day. So there might be a mismatch of expectations. Can I see myself doing the same type of work day in, day out, 12 months from now, 24 months from now? And then are the customers, the people that are actually consuming the product that I'm building because I'm a PM, are those folks interesting to me? I can give you a personal example where I worked with some of the tougher customers, but it was fun. I worked in the automotive space, and trust me, there isn't a more challenging audience than car technicians. And I've worked with a few, including lawyers and including developers and including utility companies. Car technicians win, but I enjoyed the interaction. It was really about knowing that I can put myself in their shoes and I know what they're going through and I see the type of issues that they're running into. And it was fun. So challenging, yes, but fun. So that's why that was a yes for me during that specific role. The fourth pillar, the company pillar, is one that tends to get overlooked by a lot of people because we're very much focused on the work that we're doing. But this has a profound impact on the type of day to day you're going to have. If your company is doing well, there's more money. There's the ability to hire more people. People tend to be more relaxed. If your company is on a downturn, people are afraid for their jobs. People might become defensive. People might actually be more Machiavellian towards one another, or even just, be more guarded, and it'll be much harder to get stuff done. So the way the company is performing is really important. I'll mention some of the axes. Is it doing well financially? Is the workforce growing or shrinking? Are the set of values that the company has aligned with your own personal values? And do you believe in what it's doing? Do you believe in the products that it's building? Do you believe in the way it's going about it? Are you happy to be a representative of the company towards the outside world? Can you call your mom or your dad, and when they ask you, how's work? Do you like the company you're at? You're actually proud to say, I'm a part of this company. This is the company pillar. One last one, and then we'll take questions. Growth. This is where long-term starts coming in. At the end of the day, we're planning longer term careers. We have careers that are somewhere between 30 and 40 years long. So yes, it's important to enjoy the current role and the current point in time. But you've got to think about, what do you want to be doing next? Do you have the right skill set to do what you want to be doing next? Do you want to grow on the managerial path? Do you want to grow on the professional path? How do you see yourself in a few years? Where are you aiming at? And the answers we're trying to get right now is, can I see myself growing inside this company? Will I be willing to take another role, a bigger one, a different one, so I can learn more skills, but do it at this particular company? Do people see me? Am I seen in the company? Do they want to invest in my development? Do they know how to reward me for the stuff or for the value that I've been bringing to the company? Do they want to champion me going forward? Will they make an investment in me or give me additional opportunities to do things for the company, represent them in conferences, talk to customers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? This is growth. And with that, let's pause and take questions.
I'm here with you, and we have a beautiful question from Ran asking, maybe this one is for later, but having the knowledge that developers at the lower level in the organization are earning more than you as a product manager affect a demand for a better compensation. Hello, Ran. He's our mentee, he's a product leg mentee. I'm so happy to have him here with us today.
I love this one.
So straightforward in a beautiful manner.
I know. Maria, can we put up the slides for 1 second? I want to put the framework in front of us. Okay. Look at those questions. I totally get what you're asking, by the way. We're not answering the question of, is the compensation comparable to someone else? We're not answering the question of, well, but others are making more than me. I can tell you that if you want to make more money, go and don't be a PM. and take other roles, or just win the lottery and then invest it correctly, and then you'll make more money. This is a question about the current point in time and whether it's enough to sustain you. Is it good for what you and your family need right now? You'll see, by the way, in a later part of this presentation, where does a bonus come in? Where does additional equity grants come in? They are a part of this framework. But at a nutshell, if other people are making more than you, that's not the comparison you should be making when using this framework. You should be making the comparison based on yourself and your own needs. Is this what I need?
Yep, yep. Truth to be told, thank you very much. There is another one here from Amanda saying that was great. How many yes, going back to the different pillars, how many yes should I answer and how many no's to know whether a role is right for me or that it's time to leave?
What was the joke about the difference between an interesting, a good, and a great question? An
Mm.
interesting question is one that I have no idea what the answer for, and I'm trying to punt down the line. A good one is I prepped in advance and I have the answer. And a great one is let us go to the slide that answers that question. So let us go to the slide that answers this specific question. So just after 5 pillars, we're putting it all together. And the
Good.
answer is
Good.
we
And I'm
need.
leaving you here because you
Yeah.
have everything you need.
So the answer is we need both foundational steps to be intact and at least 3 of the 5 pillars at any given point in time to be green for the roof to be stable. Now, this is what I think I learned a long time ago in geometry. So if I misquote this, I'm probably just doing it an injustice, but whatever. It was all about you need 3 points to balance a plane. So 3 pillars to balance the roof, and the foundation needs to be strong. That's how you answer that question. There's a caveat. You, as we said before, you don't answer it at a specific point in time, but rather over several periods of time. But I'll show you that caveat. But first, I want to look at real live examples. So we'll give you 2. The first one is all about Alex. So Alex is a junior PM at a startup. He gets decently paid. He can definitely save money, so he's good on that one. And he's got time for his hobbies. All good. Single for right now, so he's got most of his time devoted to hobbies. I'm happily married with 2 daughters who are amazing, so my time for hobbies is a little dwindled, but I love it nonetheless. Alex loves working with his colleagues. He does have a supportive boss, and he likes the work and he likes being able to grow in his career and develop the right type of skills for product management. But the actual role, the work that he does day in, day out, he does not enjoy the types of customers, and he doesn't really enjoy the work either because it's way too deep in the weeds. What does it look like framework-wise? This is what it looks like. We see that 4 out of the 5 pillars are intact and both foundational steps are intact. Role is the one that's broken. But as you can see, the roof is firm and is standing right there. Now, this is actually an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to do 2 things. The first one is to reevaluate over time. Has this changed? Is another pillar now broken? Is the role one repaired? And then the second, more important thing is this is a terrific opportunity for Alex to invest in actively repairing this specific pillar. And there are ways to do it. You can go and talk to your manager about seeing how they deal with these types of customers. You can go and think with them through how do you change some of the aspects of your day-to-day job such that somebody else might handle some of it potentially, and you would be able to handle, I don't know, more outbound stuff as opposed to the more tedious stuff. It'll change over time, but the idea is go and be very proactive about addressing this broken pillar such that you can strengthen it and rely on the fact that you have several very sturdy ones so you'll have the time and the mindset to fix that broken one. Let's look at the second example. So now we're talking about Brooke. So Brooke is a more senior person. She just joined a mid-sized company. She joined as a director of product. So she's later on in her career. She gets decent compensation. She likes the work-life balance. It's suitable for her. She can work after hours, after her kids are in bed, and she does have the time for her hobbies and her family. So that's all good. Her boss, great person as well. She does feel like she established rapport with the folks on the team, and she feels good about that. And she can even see a future for herself, as in, yes, there's the ability to get promoted to the next level and grow her career further, and it's tangible. So that's great for her. But when it comes to working with her colleagues, they're really not on the same page. It's just not what she was looking for in terms of the cohesiveness of the team. She feels like the work that she's doing is not it's not what she expected at this level. It's not the director of product promises that she had in mind from the moment she thought she landed the role until she came in and saw what reality looks like. And the company is on a downturn. It just had to lay off a bunch of people. So the atmosphere is iffy. This is what this example looks like in reality if you think of the framework. Yes, the two foundational steps are intact, and there are two pillars standing. But since three of the pillars are really broken, the roof is no longer up, or at least it's shaky or crumbling or about to crumble. It's a little hard to show it in an animation, so I didn't, but assume that it might still be standing, but very much cracked and about to fall in. Now, the answer, and this is what I was teasing before, the answer is not, okay, now quit. That's not the answer. The answer is now actively evaluate every month to see if this is a temporary state and or is this something that's long term. What's the difference? There could be times. Sorry, I want to do one more thing on this slide. There could be times where you're overstressed and the role is not what you were looking for, but you know that that's just the change the company had to make for the next 2 months until they rehire some of the people or they have the budget to hire a replacement for the role you're currently doing so you can go back to doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. That's a temporary thing. So, okay, the role isn't great right now, but you know it's temporary. The company is waiting to get a round of investment. And you know it's coming, but right now budgets are tight. The moment it'll come in, it's likely to change the trajectory of the company. Great. So those are the types of things that we want to make sure we think about. Is it a temporary state or a long-term one? I want to add one more aspect, and then we'll take questions again. Sorry, I need to click this button. Okay, so how do we go about using this framework in a strategic way? As I said, it's not a one and done. You look at these questions and ask yourselves those questions about once a month throughout your career, throughout your job. The answers will change over time. That is totally fine. They will change within the current role you're in. This is why we're not evaluating things just based on one version of this framework, but rather across time. We need to differentiate between what are the one-offs or what's the non-trend versus real big problems where you don't see a way to repair the roof because multiple pillars or some of the foundational steps are broken or have become broken. So how do you know? You know by seeing that at least 3 consecutive months you have more than 3 pillars or steps that are broken. They don't have to be the exact same pillars. So it could be that the role was broken 1 month, it got better, but the company is now on a downturn. There's only so much a person can, what's the right word? There's only so much a person can face before they're disheartened. So don't just look at it at one point in time, but if you see that over 3 consecutive months or 4 out of 6 months, you see that the trend is downwards or that multiple pillars are broken, okay, this might be the right time to start looking for a new job. Actually, let me take questions here before I go into the next step.
Let's do that. And we do have one question from the audience that actually I think I know what you're going to answer to this question. So I'm going to rephrase that. Guys here were saying, I love the pillar metaphor. Are all pillars equal in your view? Now, here's the thing. It's all about the subjective view of that exact product manager in that exact point of time. But let's talk about our things from our experience. Like, I can say that I've seen way too many. I don't know if to call them junior product managers, but like, until maybe like director of product management, so even senior ones and higher positions and titles that consider short-term opportunities over long-term opportunities in ways that, from my experience, wasn't the best for them in their career. So this is one potential mistake, or like relative mistake, because it's all about the exact person in that exact time in their life, that I would highlight as a potential mistake, like considering the short term over the long term. What are the other mistakes that you think that we may see, and we should say, everyone in the audience that is watching us right now, hey guys, watch out, don't make this mistake?
So there are a few. I'll put a pin in that one and call it for a second the perfect job question. Put a pin in it. We'll go back to it in one second.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's first talk about the sizes of the pillars. This was actually a question that I got asked a lot when I let people read the original version of the article that I wrote about this. And the answer is, well, it depends. God, I just proved I'm a PM, right? That's the way to prove you're a PM. You get asked a question, it depends.
You get a job. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the answer is this. Think of the purpose behind the pillars. The purpose behind the pillars is to support the roof. Each person can have a different sized pillar for different pillars. And the larger that pillar is for you personally, the more support it'll give to the roof. This is actually more meaningful not when everything is good, but rather when you want to rely on one of the pillars while you're fixing another one.
In other words, any other Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're the type of person that really cares about career growth and you see that in your job, you might be willing to put up with more quote unquote crap during your current day-to-day job. So that growth pillar will be much larger for you. And even if the role pillar is relatively broken, you do have the support. But be mindful that even very, very strong pillars can't hold the roof for long if you just have one or two of them. It can for a bit of time, but not for long. Now let's go back to the fallacies that you were talking about. So careers are long, turns out. As we said, 30 to 40 years, 25 if you're really lucky or really talented or both.
Point taken.
And quite honestly, I've yet to see a person who landed their dream job as their first job. Usually, again, careers are not linear. So let me generalize. There are 4 major steps, and you can go back and forth between them during your career. You find the type of role you want to do. That's the first one. As in, which type of job? Do you want to be a PM? Do you want to be an engineer, et cetera, et cetera? You learn the basic skill set and develop your tool chest or arsenal of tools for that type of role. That's 2. You go and ascend either on the managerial path or on the professional path and become very proficient in it. And then you get to the set of roles. The 4th one is get to the set of roles where you feel like you've made it, right? Could be for PMs, it could be building your own startup. It could be being a CPO or a CEO, or it can be a variety of things, or just be an IC 9 PM at Meta. also works.
Or just really loved your job. It even
Yes,
has like it's not about the titles even. It's about really loving your job and waking up every morning waiting to do the things that are waiting for you on your
a
desktop.
1000% fully with you. But here's the thing, you're not going to have that as your first job. So, what you need to think about is how do you balance between the short term and the long term? This is why the growth pillar is there. Can this role that you took up help you land the next and the next and the next? Will you get the tools? Is your manager somebody who's going to be a champion for you? Are they going to be a reference later on? Are the people you worked with going to remember how great it was working with you? And therefore, when you're looking for your next gig, they're going to say, hey, come work with us again. That's the long-term aspect, and you have to be mindful of it. But do not compromise some of the short term. You cannot not make enough money and be hungry for bread or need to dig deep into your savings for the sake of future growth over long periods of time. You can for short periods of time, but not over long periods of time. So don't compromise the short term. Don't kill yourself in terms of work-life balance if it'll really hurt your family. If you can find a different job that you can get the same positives out of without some of the negatives. And if you do need to be in that situation, I was actually in that situation at one point in my life where this wasn't the right, my second step was broken. This wasn't the right work-life situation for me. And then you look at the rest of the framework and you ask, well, am I getting stuff from the other pillars? How long will this be sustainable for me? Am I willing to make the sacrifice short term in order to get the long term? And if the answer is yes, be very conscious that this is not sustainable for long term, but you've made an active decision. Now you're good. And if the answer is no, make an active decision. Look for something else. There are other things out there that could be just as good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you allow me to be even more radical with my thinking about that?
By all means.
Yes. So I agree with you on the perfect job idea. I will take it even one step further and I say, I think that there is never such a point in your life or your career when you have the perfect job. Is that it's just that when you're fortunate to have an amazing job, even when things go south, you enjoy the other pillars. They give you satisfaction, uh, uh, like the feeling of fulfillment, belonging, uh, whatever it is that will allow you to carry on with the things that don't work well. But as you climb up the ladder, there are new challenges, new tasks, new people to deal with, all sorts of challenges, and that's more than fine. That's part of the process, and I think this is exactly what we're talking about today: how to make sure that you are energized and enjoying, right, what you do as a product manager in a way that will make you carry the parts and the days that a little cloudy and gray. Yeah, I love that. There is a question from the audience asking, can we get a presentation at the end? Thanks. So first of all, I love this testimony that people left the slides and the content that you are sharing with us here, Gilad. I will give you guys a little sneak peek at behind the scenes. Gilad is now working on a blog post to be presented and posted on our blog at productleague.com, where you will have all the info and the slides and everything that you need to know, and a special group session for Product League mentors and mentees only. This is going to be a really interesting one. So in other words, yes, we take care of you guys. We've got you covered. Stay tuned. With no further ado, I think this is the time for us to continue with the slides.
Sounds good to me. All righty. So, how do you repair? Right? As we said, some pillars are broken, and we don't just make spot decisions. The idea was, let us make sure that we actively invest time in repairing the broken pillars. So, first of all, rely on the ones that aren't broken. Rely on the strength of your foundational steps. Rely on the pillars, especially if they're bigger, larger pillars for you personally, in order to find the time to fix the broken ones. Can it be done when more than 3 are broken? Yes, I've seen it done. You have to be very, very active about it. You need to have tough conversations with people on the team. You need to have tough conversations with your manager. It's possible, but hard to do if you keep those pillars down or more and more pillars become broken over time. So be proactive about it, but make sure that you don't stay in that mode for too long a period of time. It'll burn you out. What does it mean, or how do you go about repairing? So as we said, rely on the positives. Find the positives even in the red or the broken pillars. They usually do exist, so find them. Sorry, slide. There you go. And then go and talk to people. Find out where things are mismatched for you, where your expectations are mismatched. Talk about it explicitly. Talk to your boss, talk to your colleagues. Find an executive coach, talk to a mentor. See what is reality and what isn't, and how you can work through these pieces. This is the time to not just stay in your own mind, but rather talk to others who've experienced this or have a different viewpoint, such that you can verbalize what you're seeing, get a read on whether this is reality or this is in your mind, and then what steps can you take to try and remedy this. Now, there is a caveat. Not everything is instantly fixable. Some might require a ton of time to fix. So if a pillar is down for too long and you think it's fixable, make sure you have a steady foundation to rely on. And some things are not up to you. The company not doing well is usually not up to you. If the company decided to let go of 20,000 people in 6 months, like Meta did, that's not up to you. In some other cases, the set of values that the company has is just not how you like operating. You like being collaborative, and they like individualism. So those might not necessarily be fixable. So you need to make sure that you understand whether it's fixable or not, and then make the right investments. If you invest in something that's not fixable, that's usually not the best way to spend time. I want to add another concept, and then we'll take questions again. So scaffolding. Scaffolding is quite simple. Like any other building in the world, when they need to renovate it, they make sure they put in scaffolding so they can support the roof while fixing it. Well, scaffolding is what some companies call employee retention tools. Equity grants, bonuses, a trip somewhere, a perk, an additional set of vacation days, a promo, more responsibilities, etc., etc., etc. These are temporary. Scaffolding is designed to be temporary. This is not the long-term way of holding up the roof, unless you're the what's it called, the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, in which case it's 400 years of scaffolding, so that might be more permanent. If you're not the Sagrada Familia, then it's designed to be temporary. And quite honestly, it's not very pretty to look at. We were in Paris this summer, and they were renovating the Notre Dame. And I know it's a wonderful place, but it didn't look great from the outside because it was in renovations. That's how temporary scaffolding is. Now, when you're thinking about this as a temporary means and not something that will sustain you forever, then you can think about it in terms of where do you need to invest your time. You need to invest your time when you get the scaffolding in fixing everything that's broken. You need to make sure that you're being proactive once again, because this bonus or this spot bonus or this additional equity, the effect will wear off at some point in time, and then you'll be left with broken pillars if you don't proactively address those. Now, There are some companies that use this golden cage, especially again, and I have no criticism of it. I do get, or I got to enjoy it at Meta. It was great, but they do have this permanent sense of scaffolding, right? The compensation is so great. The bonuses, the additional equity, all of that is terrific. So you're kind of willing to overlook whether the pillars are broken or not. Don't. Seriously, don't. Think about it as something that at the end of the day is a part of your career and you want to enjoy yourself. If you're a PM, you better love doing product management or product management-esque type stuff. That's the only reason why people would get themselves into this type of profession. So this is why I'm saying, think about this still, even if it's a golden cage, as a temporary thing and not a very pretty one, and go and fix the broken pillars or find a different job, because it's not going to be sustainable and not going to be fun long term. Maria, do we have questions right now, or should we continue till the end?
We have a very interesting one.
Tell me,
I
tell me.
think this one is more appropriate for the end, but I do think that we would like to tease everyone in the audience with this one. As one is back here with another question asking, so you decided you're brave enough to discuss compensation with your manager. That means to probably stick with the current job that you have, but to elevate your situation within the organization. What's the best way to approach that? Now, this is when you already make a decision. So I think this one should come up later. So we'll keep this one in mind.
Keep this in mind for, yeah, we've got 3 more slides. I want to cover one more thing and then we'll go to it.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. All right. Presentation. Ta-da. All right. One last thing before the summary. So, evaluating new job opportunities. The concept is very, very simple. Same exact framework. But the problem is you don't have visibility into most of these things. What things look like from the outside might not be what they look like from the inside. The boss, which seemed great, might not be as great in practice when you work with them day in, day out. What they promised you in terms of work-life balance might end up being that, well, they said in peacetime it'll be great, but the company is in constant wartime. So you don't have as much information. And since you don't have as much information, the way to use the framework in this case is the following. 1, do your research. This is the time to do due diligence. I personally, when I talk to companies, when I interview with companies, after the interviews are done, after they know they want to offer me a job, I tend to ask for an additional interview, but a reverse interview, where I get to interview them, when I get to ask questions and do my own due diligence to see if I can identify any cracks in those pillars or in the foundational steps. Seek insights from friends. Talk to people who worked at the company. Try to find any information about the manager and the company and the people there and the values. These are critical. And then put a higher bar. A higher bar means this. Since you don't know which pillars are really green and which ones are broken, assume that before you enter the company, more of them need to be green, such that when you come in and you'll see that reality is slightly different, you still have a strong foundation to build on and the roof is still steady. So go for both foundational steps and at least 4 of the 5 pillars being green when you think about taking a new job. Let us summarize and then talk about questions. So, summary. As we said, this framework, the Greek Temple framework, is designed to help you analyze information and show you whether you're in the right job for you at this point in time, and are you positioned for your long-term career. This is the goal of this framework. What is the right job, or what is the right job according to this framework? You're in the right job if at least 3 of the 5 pillars are green and both foundational steps are steady or sturdy over multiple points in time. It's not a one and done. If the roof is compromised, make sure you go in and proactively understand, is it fixable? And what do I need to do in order to actively fix one or more of the pillars? So understand that. And when you're evaluating new opportunities, set that higher bar. 4 out of 5 pillars, not 3. and go do your due diligence. And with that, let us open this to questions.
I love that. And I think we're here back
Now is
with,
the right time.
yeah, this is the right time. So we made a decision. Ryan made a decision, or whomever it will be, to stick with the current company. The pillars are strong enough for them to stay. However, they would like to elevate or have a new design for the structure and the pillars. So how they are going to discuss compensation with the manager?
Okay, so let us first talk about two different situations that can actually exist in this question.
Can I challenge you for a
Of
second?
course, you can.
Yes, you love that. Okay, so we're saying that the person is interested in staying at the company and the role, but they're looking to make their position there better by elevating or improving one of the pillars. So
Correct.
actually, what we're going to say that it's not only about compensation. This may be a discussion about a promotion that has nothing to do with compensation or
Yep.
with like autonomy, more autonomy at the company. This can be maybe about work, like work-life balance, one of the pillars that you mentioned. So maybe the opportunity to work hybrid
Yep.
and less to the office, whatever it is. So this is not specifically about compensation. It's about the pillar that you are recognizing and is the weakest one for that specific opportunity.
Yes, yes, and yes. But let's talk about two things separately.
Go ahead.
Foundational steps,
Yes.
pillars. They are different. There's a reason they're
Correct.
different in the framework. So let's take this specific situation and then expand it, like you said, Moria. There's the first question that you need to answer, which is okay, is my compensation no longer enough? Is my first foundational step broken? That's a very different conversation that you want to have with your manager as opposed to, I want an upgrade, right? It's a different conversation. It's one of the reasons you would choose to leave eventually or consider leaving eventually. Now, that can happen because inflation, that can happen because your spouse lost their job and now you're on a single income. It can happen for a lot of different reasons or market conditions. And then you need to rely, or you can rely on, hey, look, I love my job. I enjoy it. All the things that I care about are there, but this is not sustainable to me long term. Help me find a way where we can fix the compensation such that I can continue delivering the value that I deliver to you. That's conversation number one. Conversation number two about compensation is now I want to upgrade myself. It's not a barrier and it's not scaffolding, but it's an upgrade so I'll feel even better. So I'm energized. You'll see that it doesn't sit in the framework and it doesn't sit there for a reason because I've yet to find a person where $5,000 or $10,000 gross in a year makes the difference for them between they're happy or they're sad. It does if the foundational step is broken, as in it's not enough. That's when it does. But $10,000 a year isn't what's going to make you happier. It's 5,000. Okay, it's an additional trip to somewhere. So when you're having that conversation, unless we're talking about a very material promotion or significant increase, that's not market correction, but rather an increase because of merit. Have the conversation from the perspective of here's the value that I bring to the table. Here's how I've proven that I can do more. I believe that I've shown that I'm worthwhile investing in. Go invest in me some more. Talk about the value and talk about the benefit that your manager will personally and the company will reap from having you around and having you even more committed to the company. So that's the way to approach that type of conversation.
And keep in mind it has nothing to do with the money. Like it has
Yes.
everything to do with the money, but you don't mention that. You mention in either about allowing you to be as focused and as invested as needed once you don't have to worry where and how you're
Yep.
going to bring your income from. And the second option is about making you feel appreciated or make.
Exactly. Now build on what you said and your previous question, your additional layer. Everything is negotiable. Actually, with the exception of the company pillar, which you don't really get to control because it's, well, even that you can have impact on by being a part of the committee that thinks about the company's values and stuff like that. But that's the one you have less impact on. The rest, you can negotiate across all of these dimensions and not just your first foundational step. You can ask for a night off. Let's assume that you work with India and that's a part of your day to day. I live on the West Coast. Working with India is hard. So making sure you coordinate and negotiate with your manager that you're working 2 nights a week, such that you'll have the rest of the night. That's a negotiation. That's a part of work-life balance. Talking about the role and asking to be more outbound or taking on projects that involve less of the enterprise customers and more of the SMBs. Great, negotiate for that. Think about the people you work with.
Could you try again?
Siri didn't understand me. I love it. Once every presentation that has to happen. But the people you work with, talk to them. Talk about the types of interactions you're having. Talk about what's important to you. I'm a big believer in doing personal assessment type stuff like Myers-Briggs or Strength Finder or others. When you know more about yourself and when you know more about the other person, you'll have common language to talk about where the issues are. That's a negotiation you can have. So I really think that it's worthwhile to think about this entire framework as a guideline for where could you invest and how do you improve things while relying on the other good things, not as a one and done, yes, no, okay, I need to switch.
Absolutely. Talking about getting to know yourself better, we ran a poll this morning. It's still running, by the way, asking everyone on LinkedIn, how do you know if it's time to switch and look for a new product management role? When the 50% of the majority of the audience said when I feel underpaid. Second to it, it's cultural fit feels off, and then no growth opportunities seen. And surprisingly, no one chose work-life balance struggles.
Interesting.
Now, this is a call to action to everyone who's watching us right now. Go to LinkedIn, search for a product leg, and let us know what do you think about it. And I have to say, Gilad, this is very surprising to me.
It is surprising to me, but I can see the rationale. But okay, allow me to critically think about the underpayment aspect for 1 second.
Yeah.
As we said, underpayment is split between two different things: the ability to pay the bills and sustain yourself versus you thinking that you bring more value, therefore need to get compensated more.
Or you somehow look at what your colleagues are getting paid, and that's what makes you think that you deserve to receive more. Yeah.
Great. What I've learned is one, it's always okay to ask. I know that since I've had a lot of conversations about this, I feel comfortable saying that women feel even less comfortable asking. I think it's been researched. Feel comfortable to ask, but don't focus on I need X. Focus on I bring value Y. At the end of the day, you'll see that as you grow in your career, the money that you've made in the first or second position could be half, could be a third of what you're making right now. And that could be a half or a third of what you'll make in the future. So long term, when you're planning across your career, yes, money is important, but it's the bar of, is it sustainable? And then if you get to your dream job, I'll give the Roger Federer example. Roger Federer, which I hope a lot of people know, was an amazing tennis player and one of the best in the world, if not the greatest of all times. And when somebody asked him, why is he so good? He said, I don't know anybody who loves this profession more than I do. When you get there, when you get to your dream jobs, you will enjoy it so much. And trust me, if it's your dream job, people will be willing to pay a lot of money for it. So you would not feel the underpayment at those levels. So optimizing for the long term so you can get to that top, your personal top, that should be a good optimization to have in mind. Of course, assuming your current compensation is sustainable for you.
I love that. I would like to raise another point. I think that another thing that we can learn from the poll is something about our society or about domain or community of product managers, where it's kind of okay to leave or switch a job because you feel like you're not compensated enough. But it's not okay, quote unquote, to do that if you feel that there is no life, like work-life balance. Okay, like if we see such a difference, such a big difference between those that chose, being underpaid as the majority, this is the majority of the audience, like a valid reason to switch a job, and no one chose work-life balance. It says something, right? We are people of patterns, product managers. We make either
Yeah.
assumptions or hypotheses out of things that we see. And I think that there is a hypothesis here to consider, going back to this discussion about this beautiful, perfect job that we are all looking for. It is okay to look for some work-life balance and growth opportunities and things that are not about compensation. There are other kinds of compensation.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, when you think of this framework, I can tell you that when I first developed it and ran it by a few people, work-life balance wasn't a foundational step. It was a pillar. It was the sixth pillar. And we realized, when I say we, it's myself, some of the folks that worked for me at some points in time, some mentors of mine and some mentees of mine. We realized that this is very foundational. This can have such a tremendous effect on your day to day. And this is not something you want to compromise on long term. Sure, if you're in your 20s, you don't have a family, and it's a good time for you to build long term for your career and develop a skill set, okay, make an active decision and compromise on work life balance. But emphasis, make an active decision that you're compromising on work life balance for greater long term benefit. This should be as foundational as compensation, and the rest are still ones that might be as foundational. Transform them from pillars to being steps for you, because that's critical for you. This is not set in stone. I didn't write this framework because I thought this is the world's most perfect framework. I don't know of any that's perfect, and quite frankly, when you build one, automatically it's outdated. But think of this as a starting point, a way to think through things, a way to frame it in your mind, and then make the modifications that are the right ones for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2024 is just around the corner. So this may be the perfect time for everyone in the audience to reconsider and reevaluate their pillars and their structure that hold their career together. Gilad Turbahn, thank you so much for spending some time with us today discussing this important matter. Thank you for everyone in the audience for submitting the wonderful questions. I have to say, some of them were very challenging and I love it. So thank you very much for that. I want to challenge you, if you have to choose one thing that everyone in the audience will do tomorrow morning in regard to this discussion today, what will it be? The one call to action, the one thing to see and consider.
Sorry, now my voice broke. Get an honest gauge on where you stand today with your current job, and map out how do you proactively go about addressing every single one of those areas, and then prioritize. But
And track it.
engage. Yeah, and track. We're PMs.
Yes, exactly.
Implicit assumption.
Goes without saying. Absolutely, goes without saying. We already have some rave testimonials here in the audience with Ran saying thanks. It has been a great session. Yehuda with thanks. Andre, Gilad, Maria, thank you. You are very much welcome. Amanda, I'm so excited to see this webinar again and again and again. Thank you. And Guy with thanks, Gilad. Thank you, everyone who've been with us today. Gilad Turbahn, product league mentor, product management expert. Thank you so much for being with us today. Can't wait to share the upcoming blog post and the group session for our mentees and our mentors. Thank you so much. Everyone, have a fantastic day ahead. Bye-bye, Lakers.
Bye.